At Baymarket Cafe, we know life can get in the way of good food, so we're here to offer a hand. Online ordering is back, and this time, it's better than ever. If you overslept and are running out of time, order online and pick it up. Raining? Get it delivered. On your way to go there or do that, order and pick it up. Sun scorching? Meeting? Get it delivered. That way, you can spend more time doing this or that with him, her, they, and them. So whether you need your morning coffee, you're craving a red velvet donut, ramen, a lamb burger, or a falafel pita, order the food you love and skip the line. Pick it up or have it delivered. That's Baymarket Online.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us for the 7th of 19 candidate forums for the 2021 general elections in the Cayman Islands, being hosted by the Cayman Islands Chamber of Commerce in association with Foster's. My name is Mike Gibbs, and I have the honor of being the current president of the Chamber, and I will also be one of the panelists asking questions this evening, along with Mr. Shamari Scott, the president-elect of the Chamber. I'd like to begin my opening comments this evening by welcoming Bodden Town East candidate, Mr. Dwayne Seymour, and thanking him for accepting the Chamber's invitation to participate in this forum. Mr. Osborne Bodden was also invited to participate in tonight's forum, but declined our invitation. Mr. Seymour, your willingness to appear on this forum demonstrates to voters that you take the democratic process seriously and are ready to respond to a series of questions on the top issues as identified by a recent online Chamber survey. More than 400 responses and more than 200 questions have been submitted via the survey, and these will help to frame the questions for this evening's forum. There's certainly not enough time to ask all the questions, but we will do our best to cover the topics that have been identified as the most important to the Cayman Islands and the Bodden Town East constituency. When the Chamber was established in 1965, the goal was to create an organization that supports, promotes, and protects the interests and welfare of its members and the wider community. Being nonpartisan, we have hosted forums every election year since the 1988 election. So for 9 elections, we have provided members of the community with an opportunity to hear from their candidates and educate themselves before Election Day. These forums have taken weeks of planning and preparation, with all the credit going to the hard-working Chamber staff, but it would not have been possible without the financial support of our sponsors, Foster's, Affinity, Bodden's Legal and Corporate, and DART. So a very big thank you to them. I would also like to extend a wholehearted thanks to our media partners, Cayman Mile Road, Cayman Life TV, Radio Cayman, Government Information Services, and ICCI FM for agreeing to broadcast tonight's forum. It is the first time that we have live streamed the forums on the internet, and we hope that this new format will enable even more people to watch them in the comfort of their home. It is now time to begin this evening's forum. I will therefore turn the proceedings over to Mr. Will Pinot, CEO of the Chamber, who will serve as this evening's moderator. He will explain the rules of the forum and introduce Mr. Seymour.
Good evening, Mr. Seymour.
Good evening.
You'll be asked a series of questions this evening, and you have two minutes to respond to each question. And at the conclusion of the forum, you'll be allowed a 2.5-minute for delivering a closing statement. So now I'll give a biography of our candidate, Mr. Seymour. Mr. Seymour grew up in central Bodden Town and is proud of his Gun Square heritage, as well as the rich history associated with the Bodden Town district. He and his family still reside in the Bodden Town East constituency. It is an area in which he is deeply passionate about. He has been privileged to have enjoyed a very successful career in tourism, airline, and aviation industry, and established a very successful airline and aviation security business. Described as a true man of the soil, he is perhaps better known as John John. From a very early age, Mr. Seymour was keen to step up as a community leader. As a teenager, he became a member of the Bodden Town Football Club as a player, and later became the captain of the team and served as coach, manager, and now for many years has served as a vice president of the club. Across many years, he strived to encourage the growth and development of young people and has also been very active in the Gun Square community through organizing community socials. As he continued to see the needs of persons throughout the community and across the island, the passion to assist them continued to increase, leading him to become more and more active by way of offering himself for political office. Mr. Seymour has now served 2 terms as an MLA, now called Member of Parliament, and has become a cabinet minister for the past 4 years. Across all this time serving his country, he has become a proven leader, but also a genuinely caring one who is always there for the people. This has led him to be an integral part of the leadership of the Cayman Islands under the Unity government. At this time, we're going to take a short commercial break, and we'll be right back to start the questions for this evening. Please stay tuned.
Behind everything we do is a promise. Better. Better because we care, because we all have a common goal, to be better at cooking, to be better at eating right, and taking care of ourselves, to live in a better community, to just feel better. Today and tomorrow and the next day. Do it for you. Do it for them. Do it to prove something to yourself. Do it to carry on a family recipe. Or just because. But when you aim for the stars, better just works. We're Fosters. And we're better. Because of you, because of them, because of this place. And because we care.
Of Congress Candidates Forum for Bodden Town East with Mr. Dwayne Seymour. I'll now turn it over to Mr. Michael Gibbs, the President of the Chamber, who will start the questioning for this evening.
Thank you, Will, and good evening again, Mr. Seymour. The first question really is just to talk about why you are running, and the question is, why should voters in Bodden Town East place their trust and confidence in your abilities to represent them for another 4-year term?
Thank you for having me here tonight. It's a pleasure for me to be here and to have my people see why I am the person to re-elect in serving them in Bodden Town East. This for me is not just politics; it's community service. I've been doing it all my life, even as a teenager, as you heard earlier. And I lost my seat at one time, 2013. The people actually came back to me and said, we made a mistake. And, we want you to run again, because I was seriously thinking about giving it up. So I'm here because the people want me to represent them. And as long as the people want me to represent them, then I want to serve them. Being a politician per se is not all a bed and roses. There's some sacrifices, and I am willing to sacrifice certain things to ensure that my people are represented by the person that they want to represent them. I want a better life for my people. I want a better community for my people. And I think I've proven that I can deliver that. Every time I've been elected, I've done something outstanding and miraculous in the district that hadn't been done before by any other candidate. So I'm proud to stand up and say all the time that I've achieved more than any other candidate in one consecutive and one term. So that's the reason why I'm running. It's because the people want me to represent them, because they feel I will represent them best, and I understand their problems and can relate to them better.
Thank you.
Good night, Mr. Seymour.
Good night.
The second question I have has to do with national issues, and it has to do with COVID. Keeping Cayman safe from the COVID virus and reopening the economy are amongst the top issues that will confront the next government. What other major issue and concern do you intend to bring to the table for the new government to address?
Well, if we can talk about COVID, I think we really need to concentrate on COVID. If we really think about the estimates back in March, almost 1 year ago, March 22nd, 2020, it was estimated that 800 persons would have died in Cayman based on the projections around the world by World Health Organization and others, UK Public Health, etc. So when we talk about life, that's the most important thing, you know. And for that very reason is one of the reasons that I think that persons need to care their representatives, choose their representatives very carefully this coming election, because the last thing you would want is for somebody to prematurely open up the borders because they really don't understand, don't appreciate science, and just are pressured by businessmen or businesswomen who feel that they want to open up because they want to get their business going, etc. There's a myriad of reasons why people are pressuring us. People are pressuring us now to open up. Oh, when are you going to open up? But we have a pathway, and I think that if we change the guard now, we risk. There's no doubt. There's no one government that is gonna rule the same way that the last government ruled. You know, even with us, there's gonna be a new leader, and most definitely he's gonna rule different. You know, so if we're talking about life is the most important thing. You know, so why change a government when they actually did a great job in saving lives? One that is marveled at around the world. One that makes us so proud as citizens, and we need to thank ourselves for being such an obedient population and listening to all the regulations and all the rules put in place, and here we are, one of the best run countries in the world from COVID. So there's nothing more important than life.
Thank you, sir.
Mm.
Thank you. Moving from national issues to more constituency priorities, what major project would you like to achieve over the next 4 years to improve the quality of life for the residents of Bodden Town East?
Well, housing has always been something near and dear to me. When I first got elected in 2017, not first, but when I got elected in 2017, I actually asked the Premier for housing and culture actually. But housing is very passionate to me. I can remember back in about 1997 or so, where I went to the bank asking me and my fiance at the time, trying to get a loan for an affordable home. And when they came back, they said I was $8,000 short and I could not get the house. Of course, me and her cried. We cried bitterly. And here I am now, the Minister of Housing, you know. And I think that I understand what it is to not be able to own a piece of this rock. And that's where you see my determination. When I was elected first, I ensured that I think Mr. Mike Adam was the Minister of Housing at the time. But I worked very closely to him to ensure that houses were built in Bodden Town. When I lost my seat in 2013, no houses were built whatsoever for the next 4 years. When I started back in 2017, houses are built again, you know. So it's all about the desire of the person that you elect. I think that one of the most important things and one of the most comforting things in the world is for a person to own a piece of rock, right? And if that being a house, you know, or a home, that they make it. So with that, and also to try to create spaces around the district, whether that's parks or otherwise, to try to have persons live a comfortable life, you know, and a very meaningful one, where their children can play and have fun and appreciate being, living in their space. So parks are very important to me because I built parks every time I got elected.
Okay, thank you.
This question has to do with education. As we know, education seems to be one of the top topics always in every election, probably for the past 3 or 4. Education is crucial to the success of the youth and of our future. There is an increasing divide between the quality of education between the public and private schools. What measures would you support to correct this imbalance?
Well, I recognize that there's a problem. I mean, when me and you went to school, everyone went to Cayman Islands High School, and you know, we have friends that were not from here that we still have as friends today, and you know, everybody commingled, and you know, it's almost like a segregation now. I've sent my children to both public and private school. And in fact, I did it to try to see what was the difference. And you know, I mean, both systems have good merits. The difference is the private schools is not necessarily that the programs are better. It's just that they're paying more, so they pay more attention. You know, to ensure that the money that they're paying, that their child is getting, you know, the correct tutelage to grow up and be a contributing citizen in this country, you know. But I think us as parents need to pay more attention. We can't just let a child come home from school and the whole week and we never question them about homework or how was their day and so forth. This is just what some children just need to know that they're loved, you know, and they do better, you know. So I think we need to pay more attention to our children as parents. All of us have feelings in that because we are also busy. It's such a stressful life. We had a stressful 1 year. Everybody appreciates parents, teachers now because of COVID. Before that, you know, people had a different perception. But now that persons had to administer their children at home during COVID, they couldn't wait for the schools to open back up. I know I couldn't wait. So everyone now wished that teachers could get a higher salary because they appreciate them so much. So we need to do our job as parents, you know, and don't blame the private or public, you know. They're good stories out of all two situations.
Thank you, Mr. Seymour.
Thank you. The last of the first 5 questions focuses more back on Bodden Town East and the development. The question is, Cox Lumber has stimulated considerable commercial activity in Bodden Town East, along with other small businesses in the area. Would you support more commercial development since Bodden Town East has significant areas of underdeveloped land?
Well, you know, we need to be careful with development. I think each district should have their own plan, you know, and we don't want overdevelopment either. We enjoy the pristine. That's why, as representative of Bodden Town East, I purchased some property, not only because I thought that the residents of Bodden Town East needed more beach property, but purchased 4 pieces of beach property. But because that also stops someone from coming and developing a large-scale West Bay Road development and changing the complexity of the area. So we really need to be careful, and I think we need to have an agreed plan by the citizens and the residents of Bodden Town East as to how they want their district to grow, because it's at a point now where we can actually sit down and still plot out how we want the district to grow. So pro-business, as you can imagine. But at the same time, you know, we need to, growth can, if we're not ready for growth, it is more stress than anything else for the citizens and the residents of that area. So we need to be very careful. I am all for the Beach Bay development that was scheduled to be built. That's still on. I think there's some stuff in that planning and so forth. I'm all for that. Beach Bay has always been an area that housed condos and held tourists and so forth. So I'm all for that. But I think that we need to be very careful as to how we grow Bodden Town. We got some now. And, you know, yes, we need more opportunities for people to work and live in their own district, but we need to be careful how we grow, and it has to be the citizens and the residents get together as a part of a development plan and move it forward. That's how I would handle it.
Thank you, Mr. Seymour. We've gone through the first 5 questions. At this time, we're going to take a short commercial break. We'll be right back after we view some ads from our sponsors. Please stay with us.
March in Cayman is hot, but at Foster's, it's frozen.
Frozen Food Month is back, and we're giving away 4 $250 Foster's cards. To enter, just purchase any 3 products from the frozen department from now until March 27th. It's that easy.
You could grab a frozen pizza for dinner, frozen berries for a morning smoothie, and frozen plant-based sausages for something different.
Exactly. Just don't forget to enter online at fosters.ky/frozen food month. Foster's, better because we care.
You hear people talk about the economy all the time. But what is the economy exactly? The economy is the flow of money between the people, the companies, and the government in the Cayman Islands. Why is it important to understand the economy? Well, just like the engine of a car, the better we understand the economy, the better we can make it run, and the more prosperous we can become as a community. The first important thing to understand about the economy is that the private sector is the main source of all wealth. Think about it. Most people work for companies in the private sector, both big companies and small businesses. But even if you work for the government, your salary comes from the fees and duties paid to the government by private sector companies and their employees. That's why we call the private sector the prosperity engine that powers our economy and drives the country forward. When business is booming, companies have more money to spend on salaries, bonuses, and promotions. Employees with more money buy more products and services from other businesses. All those people and businesses spending money generates revenue for the government, which pays for important services like education, roads, emergency services, and care for the elderly. So when the private sector is doing well, everyone does well. But when the private sector isn't doing well, like during a recession, the money dries up and everyone suffers. So when you hear people ask, how do we make our country more prosperous? The answer is pretty simple. Grow the economy. After all, you can't get more money from a system that isn't making more money. That's not economics. That's just common sense. In this video series, we're going to take a closer look at our economy to see how we can fuel our prosperity engine and how to make sure everyone benefits. For now, thanks for watching, and remember to share this video with your family and friends so they can learn more about our economic prosperity engine.
Feed the family for less with Foster's Pick 5.
Choose from a range of meats including chicken thighs, pork chops, ground meats, beef stir-fry, sirloin steaks, and more, and only pay $19.99 for any 5-packs.
The meat is always fresh and never previously frozen. It's the perfect way to stock up for the week. That's dinner sorted.
Look out for Pick 5 in the meat department at all Foster's supermarket locations.
Foster's, better value because we care.
Welcome back to the Chamber of Commerce Candidates Forum for Bodden Town East. We're with Mr. Dwayne Seymour, and I'll turn it back over to Shamari for the next round of 5 questions.
Mr. Seymour, you touched on COVID-19 and the pandemic and the need to preserve life. This question actually has to do with tourism reopening, so we were just wondering if you'd want to expand a little bit further. If elected, would you support reopening our borders to stay-over visitors beginning in May and reducing the time for quarantine once the number of persons vaccinated in our community reaches the percentage levels set by the Public Health Department?
Thank you for that question, Shamari. Most definitely, that seems to be the plan that we're working with, and ensuring that next week there'll be another 20,000 vaccines arriving, and on April the 7th there will be another 23,000 vaccines arriving. So most definitely, we have enough vaccines to vaccinate all of the adult population, I'm told. And, once we can get that done, we're looking at the 75 to 80% region of having that kind of herd immunity in having our population vaccinated. We definitely have reached the target of over 90% with our over 70s and over 60s. So we're definitely on our way. We're very pleased with the take-up on the vaccine. And, you see long lines out there at the airport every day. The Public Health Department is doing an amazing job. And just the way that they have it set up out there, it was a brainchild idea to actually go to the airport and use that open space. But I can say to you that there's thousands of people out of work. We need, there's only so long that the government can bear the brunt of paying all these people. And I think there's over some 3,000 people alone in the tourism industry that are getting stipends. There's only so long, and thank the government for the great job that we have done in terms of managing our finances, that we're able to not be forced by the almighty dollar and still respect life. That we're able to hold off as long as possible. But May doesn't seem like an out of order. That doesn't sound like a date that we can't reach the target. In fact, that was a date that the Premier had mentioned at the time. But we won't just move right into that. There will be a lot of assessments done. And me, I would prefer going down to 5 days, still testing on arrival, still doing 3 days PCR testing before arriving, and then doing 5 days and then move down to 3. Even if we open up in May, I would still want to see some kind of quarantine done, at least for 3 days or something. And the persons that we would want to accept here first would be persons that are vaccinated. There are some over 100 million vaccinated in the U.S. now. All we need is 1 million of them.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Next question, somewhat related as far as health is concerned, more focused on health insurance. And it says, the question is, health insurance premiums continue to increase annually for many businesses, and especially for persons who reach retirement age. What improvements, if any, would you propose to make health insurance more affordable for businesses and retirees?
That is, thank you for that question, Mike. And that is an ongoing concern for us. We can't continue the way that we're going. The one thing I must say is that the SHIC plan doesn't really increase. That needs approval from the Health Insurance Commission. So it's a matter of choice. If your premiums are rising, it means that you have a premium plan. Just wanted to make that clear. But we have a problem with the seniors in terms of the cost of health insurance. And I've been working over the past couple of years. COVID kind of slowed us down. But we have a company, forgive me if I butcher their names, Mont Chapelle, that has been down here out of Canada. And they've been working in the Caribbean for some time now. That company, they've been doing, and they've brought back twice now, their findings on what we can do. Their main goal was to find a solution in trying to provide the elderly or retirees with a more economical plan. Well, it was quite difficult, and every time they came out to caucus, then we had a different question for them to investigate. We wanted free health care for children. That was one of the things. Then we wanted to we just said, you know what, just investigate the whole thing about, health insurance for everyone. And just do it that way. And then we thought about trying to do it through cynical. So there's a lot of, healthcare is such a big, it's a big concern for everyone. And it really needs more, discussion, but we need to find very quickly for seniors and retirees a plan. Government may have to subsidize the plan.
Thank you.
But we it's too expensive right now for seniors.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Mr. Seymour, this question has to do with the environment. A significant number of persons responding to the Chamber's public survey expressed concern about the need to protect the natural and marine environment due to overdevelopment and lack of enforcement. Do you share this view? And if so, what actions will you recommend to address these concerns?
I share the view, and as Minister of Environment, I've definitely tried to do what I could do to bring effect to the minister that I hold. We just, in fact, this week, Friday, we're going to have a press conference on expanded marine parks. I think it's from 14% to some 47%. I think we're leaders in the region now. So it just shows you that the government is serious about trying to address marine concerns. And there are myriad. I had a 3-hour meeting yesterday with Department of Environment about 10 other initiatives that we're trying to tackle even before I demit office, if that's the people's choice. But there's a lot of work to do, and we need to be very conscious about our mangroves and our crabs on the island. Some people are not paying that any attention, but you don't see crabs like the way you used to see them before. So there's a lot of things that we need to address. We need to take the environment serious, and we need to bring in whoever we need to do a study of the environment here in Cayman. I'm very interested in the environment. I tell people all the time I'm not an environmentalist, but I'm very conscious of not taking. We need to ensure that we leave this place, whether it's in 20 years or not, that our grandchildren or children are able to enjoy what we enjoyed. So if we keep building and developing the way that we're doing without proper planning, then our grandchildren are not going to see what we saw.
Thank you, Mr. Seymour.
The next question, again, back focuses on Bodden Town East and road development. And the question is that the main road through Bodden Town East along the seafront is one of the busiest and most dangerous roads in Grand Cayman and has not seen any major improvements in terms of safety for several years. Would you support widening the road and installing sidewalks to protect residents and pedestrians in the area?
Yeah, I would definitely support that. We're talking about safety. In fact, the good news is that they're working on that right now. They're working on the Bodden Town Road, the same main road that we're talking about. There's a lot of work going on in Bodden Town right now. Most definitely, I grew up on that road right there in the center of it. And the speeding, it's ridiculous the way that people speed through there, and it's only a 25-mile zone. That's why I asked for a crosswalk to be put so that the elderly can get across the road, one of those that flash and so forth. But I was just so scared that someone was going to lose their life, It is that dangerous and it's so narrow. So when you talk about the sidewalks and so forth, it would be good if we could get that in and do that throughout that area. One of the oldest areas in the Cayman Islands, first capital. That's the area where the first capital was. So the houses are so near to the road, you know. It would really bring a challenge to get it done. Even if we could get it done on one side, that would be most helpful for the safety of our people.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Minister Seymour, you had spoken about affordable housing previously, and intertwined in that on the other end would be minimum wage. So this question has to do with minimum wage. A minimum wage of $6 per hour came into force 5 years ago on the 1st of March 2016, which amounts to $12,480 per year or $1,040 per month for a person working 40 hours a week. Would you support a review of and an increase in the minimum wage, and if so, by how much?
You're going to be surprised by my answer here, Shamari, and thank you for that question. You know, back in the 80s, as you can remember, I remember people making $10 an hour in construction and, you know, $8 an hour and so forth. And we're here now in the 21st century talking about people making $6 an hour. So we've regressed in some respect. So what actually happened is with all good intentions, and I won't really knock the minister who made the decision. Someone had to start at some way to say we had a minimum wage. But we had a real comfortable situation here in Cayman where there was a rule of thumb that was being respected, where Caymanians did make less than a certain amount. What has actually happened now with the increase or with the approval of a minimum wage, it has increased for Caymanians who have helpers and gardeners and different people is they can't afford it now, you know. So that is we need to understand that also. So when we talk about minimum wage, we need to understand who is it going to affect. That minimum wage didn't really affect many Caymanians in terms of benefiting from that, you know. So I definitely believe that people should make more than $6 an hour. But then we need to investigate and evaluate the economy to see what's the effects, what are the effects on the persons who have to pay it, which nannies are one of the real big concerns. And I'm not saying, we love nannies, you know, but if their salaries are raised to say $7, $8 an hour, then that is 20% increase in the amount of monies that persons whose wages are not actually going up either. So I think that the thing is, if you'll allow me to say, is that we need to look at what we can do to reskill and retool our people to try to make higher wages so that so everything can move in tandem, you know, because we can't move one without the other moving.
Thank you.
And thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Seymour. 10 questions down. So right now we're going to take another short commercial break. We'll be right back after these commercial messages.
March in Cayman is hot, but at Foster's, it's frozen.
Frozen Food Month is back, and we're giving away 4 $250 Foster's cards. To enter, just purchase any 3 products from the frozen department from now until March 27th. It's that easy.
You could grab a frozen pizza for dinner, frozen berries for a morning smoothie, and frozen plant-based sausages for something different.
Exactly. Just don't forget to enter online at fosters.ky/frozen food month. Foster's, better because we care.
Here in the Cayman Islands, the private sector is the prosperity engine that drives the country forward. Just like a real engine. The better we understand how it works, the better we can make it run, and the better off we'll be. To help illustrate how our economy works, let's take a step back in time to when there were only a few thousand people living in Cayman. In those days, most people survived by fishing or farming for food. It was a simple, wholesome life, but it was a lot of hard work. Most people bought what they needed from their neighbors. As people bought and sold things, their individual wealth went up or down, but the overall wealth of the country stayed the same. In a simple economy like this, the only way one person could increase their wealth was by reducing someone else's. In order to increase the overall wealth of the country, one of our Caymanian ancestors would have to sell something, a product or service, to someone somewhere else, and bring that money back home. In other words, we would have to export something. In those days, our biggest export was labor. Men worked overseas or on the seas and brought the money home, thereby increasing the total wealth of the country. Although the economy is much bigger and more complex today, these same principles still apply. Every time a company in Cayman sells a product or service to a customer overseas, the overall wealth of the country increases. Once it's here, it flows around the local economy between the government, the people, and the companies and becomes a part of our society's wealth. The two biggest sources of income for our economy today are financial services and tourism, often called the pillars of our economy. Tourists come here and spend their money. So all of the tourism companies like hotels, restaurants, buses, Stingray City Tours that make sure our visitors have a great time are helping to increase the wealth of our country. Just like tourists, clients of financial services firms come here and spend money too. So all of our financial service companies like insurance companies, fund administrators, lawyers, and accountants that facilitate investment transactions for people and companies around the world bring money into the economy and increase the overall wealth. The point is, if we want to increase the prosperity of our country, the best way to do that, in fact, the only way to do that, is to grow the private sector. In particular, the companies at the front lines that bring the wealth here from overseas in the first place. In the next video, we'll talk a little about how money moves around the economy. For now, thanks for watching, and remember to share this video with your family and friends so they can learn more about our economic prosperity engine. In the last episode, we learned about the important role of companies here in Cayman that do business with overseas customers and generate new wealth for the Cayman Islands economy. But what about all the other companies in the Cayman Islands? How do they fit into our prosperity engine? Every business in the Cayman Islands falls into one of three groups, or tiers. Each tier plays a critical role in our economy. The first tier is made up of all the companies that do business with overseas customers and bring money into our economy. Companies in this tier are like the gas tank of our economic prosperity engine. The more we have in the tank, the farther we can go. Although most well-known companies in this tier are in financial services like Butterfield Bank or tourism like the Ritz-Carlton, there are many other well-known Tier 1 companies doing business with overseas customers like Uniregistry, Health City, and all of the companies in Cayman Enterprise City. The second tier of the economy is all the companies that do business with other local companies, like IT and marketing consultants, or companies that sell supplies to bars and restaurants. These companies are also very important because without them, the companies they supply would need to buy their goods and services from overseas. So while companies in Tier 1 bring money into our economy, companies in Tier 2 help keep it here. The third tier is made up of all the companies that provide services to people that live and work in the Cayman Islands. Companies in this tier include supermarkets, dry cleaners, mechanics, gyms, doctors, dentists, architects, house builders, florists, and gardeners. These companies are important sources of employment and business opportunities for our people, and they play a really important role because without them, Cayman wouldn't be a very nice place to live. So to recap, Tier 1 companies do business with customers overseas. Tier 2 companies do business with other companies in Cayman. And Tier 3 companies do business with those who live here. Every company and self-employed contractor in the Cayman Islands falls into one of these three tiers, and they all play an important role in making our nation prosperous, helping bring money into our country, improve our economy, and creating jobs. And without them, the Cayman Islands wouldn't be the great country that it is. Thanks for watching, and remember to share this on social media so we can all help fuel the economic prosperity engine.
Feed the family for less with Foster's Pick 5.
Choose from a range of meats including chicken thighs, pork chops, ground meats, beef stir-fry, sirloin steaks, and more, and only pay $19.99 for any 5-packs.
The meat is always fresh and never previously frozen. It's the perfect way to stock up for the week. That's dinner sorted.
Look out for Pick 5 in the meat department at all Foster's supermarket locations.
Foster's, better value because we care.
Welcome back to the Chamber of Commerce Candidates Forum for Bodden Town East with Mr. Dwayne Seymour. I'll now turn it over for the next round of 5 questions to Chamber President Mike Gibbs.
Thank you, Will. The next question, Mr. Seymour, came from a first-time voter for Bodden Town East and submitted the following question. If elected, what changes can Bodden Town residents look forward to seeing put into action in the next 4 years?
Well, thank you for the question, Mike. The changes that I want to see, the future plans for Bodden Town East, I want to continue in building, doing what I've been doing. We're right now we're trying to ensure that we have enough hurricane shelter space, which is very important. All that is going on right now. We got parks going on, being built right now. We got roads. There's a lot of comfort and for Bodden Town East residents. One of the things that I want to continue doing is the work that I'm doing on the mini hospital, I call it, which will have beds and everything else. This hospital is going to be very critical in a lot of areas. We're going to actually transition some of the staff from down at HSA, which will again help with the traffic situation. And some of the offices will in turn be inside of this mini hospital, which will have its ambulance, and we intend then to have an emergency services there also. So that's one of the things that I want to do for the care and comfort. Imagine Bodden Towners never have to go to HSA, but they can just go right there in their own district. That's at an advanced stage. We've secured the property. The outline business case has been done, and we're finalizing the funding. So that is in an advanced stage right now. One of the other things I would like to do is to do what I try to do, is build a craft market. We can't find jobs all the time for everyone, but what we need to do is then teach them how to be entrepreneurs and help them. And there's a lot of people with a lot of talent in the district that wants to display their skills and sell their we need to really encourage developing entrepreneurs every year. Each government should strive to develop a new entrepreneur. Well, in some countries they say we develop 1 millionaire every year. You know, we need to have some kind of program like that where we really pay attention to ensuring that if we can't employ a person, or if we can't create the opportunity for persons to get a job, then we give them opportunities to become entrepreneurs. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Seymour, this question has to do with the future of the cruise industry. What are your views on the future of the cruise industry in the Cayman Islands?
Thank you, Shamari. The cruise industry is well, it's very important. They had a lot of people employed. I mean, I've heard enough to know that I wouldn't like to see the cruise industry start back the way that it actually that it ended, or that it was. I mean, we need to ensure that Caymanians get a fair share. You know, I thought that the cruise ships were very aggressive in their approach and what they actually take from the tours and so forth. But I was the person who stopped the cruise ships from coming. And, you know, we did that right in time. We actually refused one that had a COVID person on it, which they said it was a heart attack, that actually died from COVID on board. God bless their soul. But I want to see a plan from the cruise association as to what they're going to do, because without COVID they had problems in terms of contagions on board. So I really need to see their plan as to what they intend to do, whether that's a continued testing on board, even doing rapid testing if they can get a rapid test that is very accurate. Rapid test before you actually get off the ship to come to shore. We need to ensure that they have a very comprehensive plan, and I don't think that they are there yet. We're not even looking at the cruise industry to revive this year. I don't even see them trying to do that in the Caribbean. So it needs to be safe, because we can't do such a great job in managing COVID and managing our airport, and then we leave the seaport, and that is where we get in trouble and got a lockdown again. We don't want that.
Thank you, Mr. Seymour.
The next question focuses on affordable housing. Excuse me. The Cayman Islands has one of the world's highest GDPs per capita, but the Caymanian dream of purchasing or building a home seems to be slipping away. What strategies would you support or propose to ensure that there is affordable housing for residents in Bodden Town East?
Very good question, Mike, and one that I'm passionate about, as you heard earlier. I told the government, in caucus, I said, look, I want to purchase, because right now, I think we purchased the most land ever in one term by any government. We purchased 25 acres in Georgetown, which it's hard to find 25 acres in Georgetown. We found a piece, and we purchased that. And then for the first time ever, we bought affordable land for affordable housing in North Side. We bought another 10 acres there, so we had 35 acres of land that hasn't been touched yet. So that's opportunities for persons to get affordable housing. But I want to take it further. I want to, in the next term, if I'm elected, and if I'm afforded to be the Minister of Housing, I want to purchase 100 more acres, 100 more acres of land. And this term, we only built, I think, 22 or 25 homes for persons. And there's a long list of persons waiting for homes. But I would love to build another 100 homes in the next 4 years if I'm elected, or even more. If we can find a way if we can get the property, if we get 100 acres, and we could find a way to just build homes, just like how they do it in some of the neighboring countries, just build homes and build homes for homes. But I don't just want to have anything that looks like a project or anything like that. If we get a large piece of property, I wanted it divvied up in such a way where you can have opportunities for different people. Because one of the people that we're leaving out is that young person who has just got their first job, who wants to move out of mom and daddy's home, where there's no more space in the home. Because there's a lot of problems with space in the home, where there's a house there's only a 2-bedroom, you got 3 children, etc. That kind of situation. You got boys and girls and so forth mixing. So we need to concentrate on that young person between the ages of 20 and 35 that want a little condo. They have no children yet, and they just want a condo because they want to unstress and come out of their mother and father's home. That's an area I've been talking about a lot, and I want to address that also.
Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Seymour, we're talking about Youth Matters. What do you regard as the top 2 issues facing our youth today, and how do you intend to address these concerns if elected?
Well, I think the top 2 issues facing our issues today, is mental health issues. We know people. This COVID has really affected our children. And we really need to do something. The other thing is unemployment. Is another thing that we need to look at. I think addressing the unemployment I think when we're sending our children off to college, you remember years ago, in Shamari, we used to pair persons with companies before they actually left the island, you know. And so we knew when they actually came back from college or university, they knew where they were coming to work, you know. What we have now is persons getting scholarships and they just go overseas. They're not really connected with a business or anything. Some come back with degrees that they possibly can't even use in the Cayman Islands. But they want a job. They need a job. They need to be contributing citizens to in this country. They need to support the families and so forth. We need to find ways to help our children, whether it's counseling or otherwise. Why are we telling our children, come back home? You know, we need to tell our children, if we see what's best right now, this is global now, you know, this is not anything about just being local anymore. So we need to tell our children, this is a global market. You need to compete. If you want to make anything yourself, if you want to get to the top, you should stay a little bit overseas after university and work a little bit. If you can get a job, whether it's in the US or UK, and then market yourself and then come back home, you know. The other thing about mental health, we really need to ensure that we have the relevant support in schools from a very young age, and we need to identify things from very early.
Thank you. Mr. Seymour?
Yeah.
Thank you. The last question in this round focuses on growth and how we manage it. We've talked about it a little bit already. And the question is, we keep hearing about increasing the population to 100,000 and further development. Do you support this continued development, and what measures would you recommend so that Caymanians benefit from a growing economy?
Well, I've never said that I supported an increase to 100,000. I would have to see the survey on how 100,000 would impact our infrastructure. Because right now we have a situation where we have 50% of the people that are here on the island, and the reason why we need to build so much roads and everything else is because we allowed 30,000 people to come work on the island, which is a good thing. That's what we've been about since we were created, inviting people in and having inward investment, etc. But we as I said earlier, you know, we can't grow without a plan, you know. And we need to involve everyone. I know that we did some work many years ago. I think it was Vision 2008 or something that we had. There's a lot that we can take out of Vision 2008 that can actually still help us now. But we need to ask ourselves a question, and I keep asking all the time when people come for trying to get taxes relaxed on their projects and so forth. You know, I says, who are we building for? What Caymanians going to benefit from this? And we really need to think about that. You know, whatever we're doing from now onwards, we need, how is this going to benefit the Cayman Islands? And we need to find ways, very creative ways to ensure, even if it's something that supports our indigent population or our elderly or so forth, but we need to benefit from anything that's coming in this country, because then we need it affects our infrastructure, and the country pays the price. We're paying the price right now, where we're building, and you can't build yourself. You can't build yourself out of a traffic problem, you know. So definitely careful planning moving forward, but we need to do it as a whole country. It can't just be one group doing it. It needs to be the whole country get involved.
So 15 questions down. So we have one more round of questions to remain. So please stay with us. We'll be right back after these short commercial messages.
At Bay Market Cafe, we know life can get in the way of good food, so we're here to offer a hand. Online ordering is back, and this time, it's better than ever. If you overslept and are running out of time, order online and pick it up. Raining? Get it delivered. On your way to go there or do that, order and pick it up. Sun scorching? Meeting? Get it delivered. That way, you can spend more time doing this or that with him, her, they, and them. So whether you need your morning coffee, you're craving a red velvet donut, ramen, a lamb burger, or a falafel pita, order the food you love and skip the line. Pick it up or have it delivered. That's Bay Market Online.
When companies do well, everyone does well. Not just the business owners, but the employees, other businesses, the government, and even the customers. Seriously, to learn how, let's look at how money flows through a company. When a company sells its goods and services, they receive money, which is called revenue. That money is then split up and used in a number of different ways. Some of the money goes to employees. To keep it simple, we'll call this salaries. Some of the money goes to pay for products and services the company needs to keep running. Those expenses are called overheads. Some of the revenue goes to the government in duties and fees. And finally, any money left over goes to the owners of the business as profit. So no matter what products or services a company provides, it's like a machine that takes in money as revenue and spits money out as salaries, overheads, government fees, and profits. It's really that simple. Every dollar that a company takes in gets turned into one of those four things. Okay, so how does it benefit everyone when companies do well? Let's take a closer look. First, with salaries. Salaries are important for the economy because most people get most of their income from their employment. Next, government fees. In the Cayman Islands, the vast majority of the government's revenue comes from duties and fees paid by businesses. That money goes to pay for important government services like education, emergency services, healthcare, and infrastructure. Then we have overheads. Quite simply, one company's overhead is just another company's revenue. When a hotel needs supplies, they buy them from local suppliers. Those suppliers turn that revenue into salaries, overheads, duties and fees, and if they're lucky, profit. Some people think that business owners make too much money, but the truth is, the average company only makes 7.5 cents in profit for every dollar in sales. And that's assuming they make a profit at all. The other 92.5 cents goes to pay for salaries for staff, overheads that become revenue of other companies, and duties and fees that pay for the government services we need. In order to become successful, most business owners have to work extremely hard and take a lot of risks. If it wasn't for the ability to make a profit, the owner wouldn't have started the business in the first place. And if nobody started any businesses, there would be no jobs for employees, which means no salaries, no overheads to support other businesses, and no money from government fees to pay for our government services. So yeah, when companies do well, everyone does well. In the next video, we'll take a closer look at why countries need economic growth. For now, thanks for watching. And remember to share this video with your family and friends so they can learn more about our economic prosperity engine.
Welcome back to the Chamber of Commerce Candidates Forum for Bodden Town East. We're here with Mr. Dwayne Seymour, and we've reached the stage where we have the final 5 questions for this evening. And I'll turn it back over to Mr. Shamari Scott.
Mr. Seymour, last round. All right, so this one has to do with employment and the work department. With regards to the new Department of Work system that has been implemented in recent years, do you consider the system a success? If not, what improvements would you recommend?
Yeah, we're talking about a live problem here. Thank you for the question. I want to be respectful to, there's a lot of hard-working civil servants. I must tell you, I see them working every day. They do a lot of work. But I don't think that the system is working the way that it was intended. To give persons more opportunity and make sure that to ensure that there was fairness. People are still complaining, so that's how we gauge it. Whether we think that it's a good system or not, it's just not working for our people. So we need to try to devise another plan. I think we need to take all the data from all the complaints that has been made about the system, even from employers also, because there's complaints that the employers not getting information fast enough, or their information, they register it and they don't know whether it's registered or not. There's a myriad of problems with the system. We just need to go back to some of the old-fashioned ways of hiring. I think every year, we need any large organization that comes into this place, I think we need to connect them with the college, with the UCCI and so forth. And they need to give me your curriculum, give me your training manual, and we're going to train a bunch of people, I always said this all the time, just train people, just keep training people, train hundreds of them, I always said that if a person is coming to build in Cayman, right, it's normally a 3-year build out, right? There's no training program that's going to last longer than that. And I said, start training as you start to build, All persons are not going to make it, but most of these places have chains overseas that they can actually send these persons to, whether it's in Europe or whether it's in America or Canada, And this has been one of my pet peeves, Just take your programs, give them to the college. Let's train people. I'll have people available for you. You choose the ones you want, so that every one of us, it's a double thing. You got employees available right on the island, and our people are trained. They're trained in something.
Thank you, Mr. Seymour.
The next question shifts over to the financial services area. And it's given that financial services is critical to the island's economy, how do you think the country should respond to the FATF grey listing and the European Union's intention to blacklist us, even though we have met most of their requirements?
Thank you for the question. I think we just need to continue, doing what we're doing. We're constantly trying to adhere to all the stuff that they throw at us. The goalpost is constantly moving. We understand. I mean, people don't pelt at a mango tree because the mango tree doesn't have any mangoes on it. We understand that, we're a leader in the world in the financial industry. People want what we have. We just can't pretend that that's not what it is. People want the business that we have, and they're going to try to do whatever they can to try to make us look as bad as possible. I think we've been responding pretty good. We got off the list that they had us on, but as soon as we get off one list, you can bet that there's going to be another list right around the corner that we'll get back on. We're on the gray list now. Our fear is getting on the black list. We just need to with the government, the private sector needs to keep working closely together to address any concerns that they bring up, and the legal department needs to keep, the three needs to keep working together to ensure that we can address whatever they say without losing our business, and we've been able to do that over the years. We just responded last year, and it's like they're amazed of what our country is able to achieve. They just can't figure out, how did you guys come up with a system where no one pays a tax, And it's just driving them crazy. They can't imagine it because they've been paying tax for 500 years or whatever it is, So we need to just keep educating them and do as much as possible. We need to get friends overseas, to be there fighting for us. We need to constantly pound the pavement. That's why we're putting offices in the U.S., in Canada, and in Asia to ensure that we're out there and that people know what we're about.
Thank you.
Mr. Seymour, this question has to do with cost of living. The cost of living ranked as the top issue for respondents in the most recent Chamber of Commerce public survey. What additional strategies would you propose to address this issue beyond those that you've already touched on?
Cost of living, thank you. It's affecting all of us, and I don't think that we don't need to think that because we reduce duties at the port that you're going to go to the supermarket and find out that the item at the supermarket has been reduced. It doesn't work like that, I think what we need to concentrate on, because we're in the world that we're in, we're especially now at COVID, things the cost to supermarkets has gone up because cost has gone up overseas. We brought them in and they actually told us what's going on in their industry and so forth. And the supermarkets, I think that they do a good job in trying to keep the cost down. What we need to do is to constantly retool our own people so that they keep rising, right? That they can take the brunt of whatever is coming. It's a free market, so we don't have price control or anything like that. And we really don't want to go to that. We have an honor system now that is working pretty good. Do I think we could pay less at the pump? Yes, I think we could pay less at the pump. Do I think that we could pay less for a gallon of milk? I wish we could. We need to find ways, whatever. We need to sit down with the supermarkets and so forth and say, look, how can we help you save so you can help our people save? And same with the fuel stations. We're on that now. I know that Off-Reg is working, trying to understand, everything about their industry and how that works. But I think we'll get there. We have some good teams in place.
Thank you, Mr. Seymour.
My last question for you, Mr. Seymour, is in respect of civil partnerships. And the question is, what are your views on the recently enacted Civil Partnership Act?
The civil partnership? Well, thank you for the question. The civil partnership, obviously, the whole world probably knows that I voted against the motion in the LA at the time, I think it was. That doesn't necessarily mean that I hate anyone, It's been done. We're not an independent country. We're still ruled by the UK, and that is in place now. And we need to respect what is in place. We need to respect laws. We don't want to ever encourage anyone to not be respecters of laws. It's there. Everyone knows my faith. I lean and I think about procreation, and how's that going to work? And my main concern is the children, as I said in my debate. Let's protect the children. When persons get 18 years old, they can make whatever decisions I have 5 children, and I don't know what they're going to turn out to be, and I'm still going to love them, whatever they choose to be. I would hope that I get some grandchildren, but, that's God's will. So I think that if we can do what we can to keep all of that rut out of schools and so forth, teaching these children all kinds of stuff, they'll learn whatever. These children today are smarter than we think. They know things that we don't even know they know. So I don't think that we have to go put it in a curriculum and put all these types of bathrooms in there and all kinds of stuff. I'm really not in support of that. I think that until you reach 18 years old, we need to keep them as innocent as possible. That's my wish.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Seymour, I have the pleasure of asking the last question, and it has to do with pension reform.
Oh.
The recent withdrawal from private sector pension funds has depleted the ability for many residents to have enough funds when they retire. What ideas would you recommend to address this future shortfall?
Well, thank you for the question. The thing about pension is the 10% is not enough. we figured that out, that it's not enough for a Caymanian to retire and live a comfortable life. They still need NAU help and so forth. So that's sometimes why I disagree with NAU when they hear that somebody is getting retirement benefits or so forth. But it's not enough. Sometimes not even for a member of parliament. It's not enough. So the pension in itself, we look around the world, the USA doesn't even have mandatory pension, you know. Some employers complain about that. You know, some would wish that it would go away. But we need some mechanism for persons to retire on rather than just depending on the government. We need to get to a point where we can actually raise the percentage that persons actually, that we actually save for persons in their later years. But how do you do that when persons are still making the same salary, when companies are stagnant? So we need to understand the whole thing. You know, I was in support, obviously. I voted for persons to take, you know, monies out of their pensions and so forth. And it took out some almost $400 million. And a lot of them saved the money also and put it away in credit union and other places. But we really need pension reform. But I think there's too many providers, you know, too many providers on the island. And I often wonder, why is government pension fund yielding every year? And they're doing such a great job in managing that, you know. So we need to go and sit down with the government team and try to figure out what they're doing and how they're managing the money different from how the private sector is actually managing it. There must be a win-in there.
Well, thank you, Mr. Seymour. We've gone to 20 questions. Thank you very much. Now we're going to take our final commercial break, and when we return, we'll have closing remarks from Mr. Seymour. Please stay tuned.
Behind everything we do is a promise. Better. Better because we care, because we all have a common goal: to be better at cooking, to be better at eating right and taking care of ourselves, to live in a better community, to just feel better. Today and tomorrow and the next day. Do it for you. Do it for them. Do it to prove something to yourself. Do it to carry on a family recipe. Or just because. But when you aim for the stars, better just works. We're Fosters. And we're better. Because of you, because of them, because of this place. And because we care.
Welcome back to the Chamber of Commerce Candidates Forum for Bodden Town East. We reached a stage in the proceedings this evening where we're going to have a closing statement from Mr. Seymour. And so, over to you.
Thank you so much. It was actually fun being here by myself tonight. I was debating myself. But I thank you so much for inviting me and for being here. I thank the people of Bodden Town East, the residents of Bodden Town East, for choosing me for the past 4 years. I asked them to look at the situation that has been created there in Bodden Town East, where you have one member who has done a lot, who actually cares about his district, and you have another member who cares more about national things than actually the Bodden Town East problems, and trying to make the lives of Bodden Town East residents a little better. I have done a lot over the past 4 years. Every time I've been elected, I've achieved for Bodden Town East something that they yearned for years. You take, for instance, the Cowood Public Beach dock. There was no dock and boat ramp south of the island from South Sound all the way to Breakers. And if we had an emergency in Bodden Town, which we did at times, it takes a while for the police boat to launch all the way South Sound to come all the way up to Bodden Town. So it was very important. And that was something that was promised to the district for 40 to 50 years by many, many residents. We have the situation of the waste management, the landfill, where many ministers have tried to solve this problem, and this government is able to do it. They have the situation of traffic that we're trying to solve, and we know that that affects me because my children, 3 and 5 years old, have to get up so early in the morning. You would think that I would be one of the ones that want to quickly resolve it, but I think that we need to start thinking outside the box. We need to go back and think about what we did during COVID. We worked from home. We did staggered shifts. We did all kinds of stuff during COVID that actually worked, So we can actually help solve the traffic problem ourselves, businesses, if we choose to, but we may have to force them to just stagger the shifts a little bit, and coming into work, and that is a fix. But we can't keep importing 400 to 600 cars a month and expect that we're going to solve the traffic problem and build ourselves out of it. I thank the Bodden Town East residents for electing me for the last 4 years. I asked them to re-elect me for the next 4 years. You've heard some of my plans. You've heard some of the stuff that I've accomplished over the years, and I think that I'm the better choice.
Thank you, Mr. Seymour. Now turn it over to President Mike Gibbs for closing remarks.
Excuse me. Thanks again, Mr. Seymour. So on behalf of the Chamber Council and staff, I would like to thank the Bodden Town East candidate, Mr. Dwayne Seymour, for participating this evening. I trust that the forum will help Bodden Town East voters make a decision when they go to the polls on April the 14th. I would also like to thank Foster's for their major sponsorship of the Chamber's candidate forums, as well as Affinity, Bodden's Legal and Corporate, and DART. If you're interested in viewing more of the Growth Matters video series that have been playing during tonight's commercial breaks, they can be accessed at growthmatters.ky. Please join us Wednesday evening as we welcome Vincent Frederick and Chris Saunders from the constituency of Bodden Town West. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope you will join us tomorrow evening at the same time. Good night.
At Baymarket Cafe, we know life can get in the way of good food, so we're here to offer a hand. Online ordering is back, and this time, it's better than ever. If you overslept and are running out of time, order online and pick it up. Raining? Get it delivered. On your way to go there or do that, order and pick it up. Sun scorching? Meeting? Get it delivered. That way, you can spend more time doing this or that with him, her, they, and them. So whether you need your morning coffee, you're craving a red velvet donut, ramen, a lamb burger, or a falafel pita, order the food you love and skip the line. Pick it up or have it delivered. That's Baymarket Online.